although they work pretty similarly, I found out that the 8 Sleep Pod and the ChiliPad Cube from SleepMe are not exactly comparable in terms of comfort and effectiveness. In this review, I'm going to tell you my experience with both and everything you need to know, including their pros and cons, before you invest in either one. And to save you from having to skip to the end of the video, I'll just let you know right now that the 8 Sleep Pod is still my top recommendation. It surpassed the ChiliPad in almost every respect, and I'll tell you exactly why. If you've never heard of the 8 Sleep Pod or the ChiliPad from SleepMe, these are climate control systems for the surface of your mattress. Whether you're a hot sleeper, whether you're cold at night, whether you're a little bit of both depending on the season, both products will alter the entire surface temperature of your mattress to make it cooler or warmer based on your comfort needs. There are several differences between the two, although they work really similarly in that the mattress pad or cover has basically water tubing that's sort of woven back and forth throughout the entire surface, and that's what conducts the heating and cooling. Both products work independently of the ambient room temperature. So your bedroom could be 85 degrees and the sleep surface can still be cooled to 65, 60 degrees, whatever you need. That's considerably different from other cooling systems like the BedJet that use air to conduct the heating and cooling, because those are dependent on the temperature of the room. The 8 Sleep Pod and the ChiliPad, both of those are completely independent from the room temperature, so it's basically like having an air conditioner and a heater for the surface of your bed. Let me just take you through a quick comparison of the overall specifications of both if you're on the fence about them. So the 8 Sleep Pod, depending on the model and the size, that'll run anywhere from around $2,449 to $5,249 unless it's on sale. Whereas the ChiliPad Cube runs from about $699 to $1,549 depending on the size, which runs from queen to California king, half or whole sizes. So both are they use circulating water to conduct the cooling. The 8 Sleep Pod is a full mattress cover, whereas the ChiliPad literally is a pad. It just lays on top and it has straps that kind of go underneath your mattress to hold it in place. The temperature settings are a little bit lower on the 8 Sleep Pod. It goes down to 55 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The ChiliPad Cube goes down to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but it goes up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So they have like the same temperature range in terms of the amount of temperature range, but the 8 Sleep Pod gets a little cooler, the ChiliPad Cube gets a little warmer. The controls for the 8 Sleep Pod are through the app. It's automatic or manual, so like if you want to make manual adjustments you can, but that's all done through the app on your phone, and Wi-Fi is required. Whereas the ChiliPad, the controls are either on the device, it's just buttons on the top of the device, or the remote control. There's no app connectivity and no Wi-Fi needed. Both offer full surface climate control. The 8 Sleep Pod has a wake-up alarm where the ChiliPad Cube does not. The 8 Sleep Pod also requires a subscription for the autopilot plan, and the ChiliPad doesn't have one of those. And the sizing, the 8 Sleep Pod offers covers from full-size beds all the way up to California king. The ChiliPad Cube only goes from queen to California king, but they do have half sizes. So like a half king would be like a twin XL, which is sort of like a dorm bed. You know, it's a twin size bed, but a little longer. So you could actually get it for the for a twin size bed. You'll just have some of it kind of hanging off the end a little bit. The setup for the 8 Sleep Pod was about 50 minutes for me. The ChiliPad Cube was about 15 minutes. And both of them have a return policy of 30 days. And the standard warranty for the 8 Sleep Pod is 2 years. There's an extended 5-year available. The ChiliPad Cube has a 1-year warranty, and that can be extended to 2 years. Like I mentioned, I've used both the 8 Sleep Pod and the ChiliPad, and I'll take you through the unboxing and setup of each really quick, just so you can kind of get a sense of what you'll be in for if you purchase either one. Right now we're going to unbox the ChiliPad Cube, so we'll see what this is all about. Opening the box, this is how everything is packaged inside. The mattress pad itself comes in its own little bag, and I got a half queen, so it's not super large. This is pretty lightweight and relatively small, and it's only going to be for my half of the bed. The cube itself comes in its own separate box. So we're going to open this, flip this open, and this little message kind of cracked me up. "We can't wait to sleep with you." That's cute. This is the cube unit itself. As you can see, it is not very large. It's pretty small, pretty lightweight, and it's got the controls right on the top. Just like the 8 Sleep, the ChiliPad uses water to conduct the climate control, and this unit has to be filled with water before use. The other things that came with the ChiliPad Cube are, of course, the power cable, because you can't run it without power. It has a remote control, and it actually comes with batteries too, so you don't even have to supply those. Finally, it includes a little package of system cleaner for cleaning the interior system of the cube itself. That's pretty cool. The water cable came inside the bag with the cover, and it's really well padded. It's pretty thickly padded on the outside to prevent any kind of, kinks or twists. And it's flexible, but not really kinkable. So I appreciate that. That's a pretty smart design. This is the ChiliPad itself. It's completely extended across my bed. I wanted you to be able to see how long it is. It really does cover half of the queen from top to bottom and from the side to right about at the middle, maybe a little slightly over. But yeah, this is what it looks like. The gray side is the cooler side, and this label advises you to have this side up if you prefer having a cooler side against you. It also has what's labeled as the comfy side, which this has more of like a quilt-like material. Although the pad is thin, like the material on the side, it's not very thick at all. I am a little concerned about the water piping through here, because I can feel this as I'm running my hands over the surface of the ChiliPad. I can feel exactly where those water lines are, and let me see if I hold this up to the light, if you can see them. Like, you can kind of see, like, right here, that's a water line that's inside, and it runs all throughout, kind of up and down, back and forth. But I can feel that even through the comfy side, it's right there. I don't know how comfortable that is going to be to sleep on. We're gonna find out real soon. The ChiliPad setup is super simple. You've got the cube, the pad, and this end of the pad is the one that has the piece that plugs in to the hose that connects to the cube, and then you've got the water hose. Both ends of the water hose are basically the same, so it really doesn't matter which one you plug into which thing. They both work the same way. So we are going to first plug the mattress in, pull this out. This just connects, sort of like plugging in anything else that you would plug in, and it snaps into place. And you'll hear it snap, and then this just slides right back over to kind of protect that connection. And we're going to do the same thing on the ChiliPad Cube. So the same thing, we're going to plug this onto here just like we did the cover, and it snaps into place, and that's connected. So now the cube is connected to the ChiliPad. If you need to detach this at any point, either from the cube or from the mattress pad, there's a button right on the top. Push it and it immediately releases. So once the mattress pad is in place on your bed and everything is connected and hooked up, you're going to need to fill the ChiliPad Cube with water, and the reservoir is located right at the top. This just unscrews and you can pour your water in there and put the cap back on when you're done. Make sure to use distilled water if you're able. Ideally, that's the best. I have reverse osmosis water, so that's what I'm going to use in mine. But yeah, once this is filled and the cube is plugged in, you are ready to go. So we're going to start with the pod hub, which if you're looking at these boxes and trying to figure out how the heck to open them, there is a small open here and there's tape along the edges that you can cut or remove. So just, you know, in case you're as confused as I was when you're first looking at it, that's how you get into it. So it just opens on the side. And that's what this looks like. This slides out. It even tells you slide out, and it has a little handle. So let's slide out and see how this goes. And I should point out that I am not the strongest woman in the world, but yeah, clearly if you brace and pull, yeah, you can slide it out, even if you're relatively weak like me. So let's get this all the way out. All right. So this is the pod freed from its box. So now let's see, I think we just remove the sides. Okay. So the packaging that's used on the Pod 4, and I assume all of the other 8 Sleep pods, this is really high quality foam and very like solid cardboard. Save this, because if you ever move or ever need to transport your pod, you're gonna want this. One half of the packing is just packing. The other half has some extras in it, so pay attention when you take your pod out. The first, up here, we've got all of the start here. I don't know if you can see this, but it literally says start here, so start there. These are going to be your instructions. And then inside is the power cable, all wrapped up nicely. And because I haven't yet started here, I'm not quite sure what this is, but it was in the packaging, so it's clearly important. And I'm sure we'll find out what that is in a hot minute. This is the unit, and this is like a fabric. Wow, that's really, this is super high end. Geez, this is what it looks like from the side and the back. But yeah, this is what the pod base itself looks like. As with the pod unit, the cover box also tells you like right where to open, so you know which side to cut and how to get into it. We're going to open this up and see what we have inside here. So the whole cover comes in its own bag that you just slide right out. Wow, okay. Yeah, she's a big one. Okay, so we're gonna flip her up like this, and you can see the 8 logo. And this is a zipper bag that just unzips. And like the other packaging from the hub, hold on to this bag, because again, if you ever have to travel with this or take it with you, you can. And like a lot of things, comes with a little silica package, so you know, toss that or actually keep them. I keep a bag of these for like if you ever have to dry out a phone or something instead of rice, so I just keep a collection of these for that. Handy unrelated tip. Oh, okay. So we're gonna have to tear here. Let's tear there. Okay. Oh, ooh, wow. Okay, so the material is nice. That's squishy. Let's take a look at the actual cover. I'm not going to unroll the whole thing, but this is kind of what it looks like. It's pretty thick, but not like ridiculously thick. It's soft, and the material is super smooth and soft. Yeah, that's like, it's well constructed, the padding and just the, you know, I don't expect this to change the feel of my mattress, you know, because it does have some thickness, but not enough to really change the comfort level of my existing mattress. So I will report more on that later after we test this out. But yeah, this is the whole unit, and in the center there is some packing, and this is part of the rest of the unit and what connects to the hub. So yeah, this is how everything comes, and we're going to get it set up. So right now I've got the pod hub on my nightstand. It's not going to stay there. I just wanted to leave it up there for right now while we were setting up. Everything is well fitted, and right now my bed is a little bit away from the wall because during setup it advises you to have everything like about 1.5 feet away, like at least 1 foot away from the wall, so you can kind of, you know, situate everything. But this is the water hose that connects to the back of the hub, and that actually goes, let's see if I can take you over here, to the back of the mattress, like the mattress pad. That's where it connects. So once this is set up, you don't want to have any kinks in it or anything. You know, you just want to make sure it's not twisted or weird. And the cover does come with just a little sticker that tells you where the top left corner goes. So that's helpful when you're first setting this up. The hub itself is pretty sleek looking. It almost kind of looks like a desktop computer kind of. So I just want to kind of take you through the final form of the setup here. I've got the pod cover is on the mattress. I'm going to make the bed in just a minute. But where I have the hub set up, I have it off to the side of my nightstand. So it's out of the way, but you can kind of get an idea of how long the water hose is as far as where the hub is and where it connects in the middle at the top end of the bed. So, you know, it's a good, I would say probably 5, maybe 6 feet long. So you have plenty of room to put the hub wherever you want, whether it's, you know, farther away from the bed, or if you want it between the nightstand and the bed. You know, it's sort of dealer's choice, but yeah, that's what it looks like fully set up in my bedroom. The setup of the pod was really simple. You know, everything connected the way that it was supposed to. It paired with my phone easily, connected to the Wi-Fi easily, and it was off and running in, you know, virtually no time once I got through all of the steps. A few weeks after having the 8 Sleep Pod, we upgraded our router. So, you know, our internet kind of like changed a little bit with the new router. And my husband's all about security, so he set it up with a really ridiculously long password that was like 60 some odd characters there. It's all over the place. You stare at it and it's a freaking mess. When I went to reconnect the hub to our internet, the pod really didn't like that. It wouldn't connect, and I was, trying to get it to connect for like an hour, because I was thinking, maybe it's the router, something's going on, what's happening? And then I did some Googling and, looked on 8 Sleep's documentation and kind of figured all of that out. Well, as it turns out, the pod can have some difficulty connecting to your Wi-Fi if your password is very, very long. I think it was like over 35 characters. So, as a workaround, my husband set up a guest network on our Wi-Fi and put a much shorter password on that. So, I used that instead, and it paired instantly. It was all connected and everything was fine, and that's just what we use now. It's just something that I wanted to point out because, during my initial setup, I didn't experience anything like that. This wasn't until later when we, changed our internet situation that I discovered this. So I wanted to pass it along just so you have that knowledge and now you know the workaround. I tried the pod from 8 Sleep first, which I admit probably spoiled me and maybe ruined me for other climate control systems, because it delivers the most comprehensive heating and cooling, but insights into your sleep. So, it controls the entire surface of the mattress. There's dual zone control, so my husband and I can each have our settings set however we want for our most comfortable night of sleep. But it offers app tracking that basically gives you like every possible insight into how you slept the night before. So the app also works with the pod cover to sort of make adjustments to the temperature throughout the night based on your biometric data, whatever your body's doing, what sleep cycle you're in, what the ambient room temperature is. It takes all of these factors into consideration and then adjusts the temperature slightly all throughout the night to keep that surface precisely where it should be to promote the best night of sleep possible. And that's the one thing that I have yet to experience with anything else that I've tested, including the ChiliPad Cube from SleepMe. Overall, the 8 Sleep pod is wonderful. It's easy to set up. It's a little time consuming to set up, as you saw from the unboxing and setup, but it's simple in that the steps are all broken up as you go. You're really only focusing on one step at a time, so it's never overwhelming, and before you know it, it's set up and you're off and running. If you're looking for something that will control the entire surface of your mattress comfortably, because you don't even feel it underneath you, the mattress pad, it's a little thickish. It doesn't change the surface texture of your mattress or the firmness or softness, and you don't feel the water channels at all. So as it's working, you just feel cooling and heating, and you don't feel things underneath your body, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's honestly the best sleep system that I've used, and it's still my top pick. The ChiliPad Cube, I had my doubts when I was doing the unboxing, and those were clearly not unfounded. The device itself, it works really similarly in a lot of ways. It was super easy to set up. I had it together and everything was ready to go in about 15 minutes. Really basic interface as far as the controls on the actual cube and using the remote. All of that was easy and fine. The mattress pad, I get that it was made to be thin so it wouldn't alter the feeling of your existing mattress, and I can appreciate that. However, and this may vary from user to user. I'm somebody who is very sensitive to textures and, just very tactile things. The tubing that's inside the cover is pretty prominent. There's really nothing above or below it except for the external cover on either side. So, the cover's really thin, but the water channels are all just right there. Like, as you saw when I was doing the unboxing and setup, they're right there. You can feel them very easily, and I did notice them when I was laying on it. And I'm somebody who, I usually sleep on my stomach most of the time, so, a lot of me is making contact with the mattress. And that, coupled with my, just my weirdness about textures, I did not love that. I think it could be a lot better if the mattress cover was at least a little thicker to mitigate that, because like with the 8 Sleep Pod, it has water channels all throughout the exact same way, but you don't feel them. Like the padding, it's not super thick, but it's enough to mitigate feeling any of that at all. So, from that standpoint, the 8 Sleep Pod is no comparison to the ChiliPad. That said, the ChiliPad does have one major benefit. I think it's a major benefit over the 8 Sleep Pod, and that is that the 8 Sleep Pod requires a Wi-Fi connection to be used. Like the hub has to be online. The ChiliPad doesn't. You just plug it into the wall. There's no connecting it to the internet. There's no pairing it with your phone. There's no involvement there at all. So as long as you have power, you can use the ChiliPad. Now, the 8 Sleep works night after night, no problem, unless you're in a situation where your Wi-Fi goes out. It wasn't all that long ago. We had a lot of storms and our Wi-Fi was out, during the night, and I really didn't think anything of it until I went to bed and my pod was offline. That was a little bit of a problem because it was like an 80-degree night and I was really looking forward to sleeping in my nice cool bed. That said, there was a workaround. If you're ever in a similar situation with the 8 Sleep Pod and your Wi-Fi is out, you can actually turn your phone's hotspot on and connect the hub to that instead. I wouldn't recommend it for, night after night, every single night if you have absolutely no Wi-Fi, because I have no idea what that would do to your data limits. But in a pinch, turning your hotspot on, pairing the hub to the hotspot, that'll get you through the night. The 8 Sleep Pod has its share of pros and cons. The pros vastly outweigh the cons in my experience. Overall, it provides climate control across the entire surface of your bed, including dual zone control. And the autopilot subscription is basically what runs all of the autopilot features, which include, all of the temperature adjustments throughout the night and all of the sleep data that you get the next day, because it'll tell you everything you need to know as far as, how well you slept. You even get a sleep grade. It will literally grade you on your sleep, so be prepared for that. But it'll also tell you how much you snored, what your breathing rate was like, what your heart rate was like, and just all of these things that relate to your entire night of sleep. It gives you that data, and that just kind of helps you get a sense for, how your sleep actually is. Additionally, the hub itself, the part that sits on the floor and, actually controls the mattress cover, it's pretty quiet. Especially I live on a city street, so, there's always some sort of noise happening outside. But the sound of it is quieter than the air coming out of the central air, to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. if the room was like entirely sealed and quiet, you could hear it a little bit, but it really isn't any louder than just like a desktop computer that's running. Additionally, the surface of the mattress, like the firmness or softness of your existing mattress, doesn't change with the 8 Sleep Pod, and you certainly don't notice the water channels inside of it, like you can't feel them. And finally, one last pro that's worth mentioning is the alarm system. There is a setting for like a vibration and heat alarm, where if you set the alarm on the 8 Sleep Pod, not only does it create like a vibration that's sort of like a cell phone is inside your mattress somewhere, but it very subtly warms up the surface of the mattress. Not like in an intense way. It's not like you're gonna wake up and it's gonna be like 120 degrees, but just enough to kind of tell your body that it's time to wake up. So it's gentle but effective. The only major cons to the 8 Sleep Pod really is the price point. It is one of the most expensive climate control systems out there for your mattress. It's an investment, but worth it. The setup takes, I don't know, they say about 40 minutes. In my experience, it was about 50 all in, and that included the unboxing and total setup. The other major con is the Wi-Fi connectivity. If you're ever in a pinch and your Wi-Fi is out, the pod is going to be offline. That said, like I mentioned before, there's a workaround, and I was hot and desperate and I figured it out pretty quick, actually. It didn't take me long to figure out, I could just pair it to my phone. So that kind of saved my butt that night. But it's just something to know going in. It does require the Wi-Fi, and it does require the autopilot subscription if you want to have all of the features that control it automatically. The ChiliPad does have some pros going for it, but it also has some pretty extensive cons in my experience. As far as the pros go, the lower price point by far is the biggest, especially compared to the 8 Sleep. It's much less of an investment. And the other really cool thing about the SleepMe ChiliPad is that it's available in half sizes. So you don't have to buy a system that's for your entire mattress if you only need it on one side. You can actually buy a half size and just put it on your half of the bed and you're good to go. The setup is really easy. Like I mentioned, it took me about 15 minutes all in to get it set up and running, and it's pretty simple. It only requires power to run. It doesn't connect to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You're not, connecting it to an app or anything like that. So, it really, that is simple. And unless your power goes out, you're going to be able to use it. The mattress cover does have two sides. There's one side that is designed for cooling, and that's the gray mesh side. And the other side is called the comfy side, and that has more of like a quilt-like material over it that's really soft. That said, and we're just going to segue right into the cons, even the comfy side, you feel the water channels inside the pad. The mattress pad really is thin, so it won't affect the way that the firmness or softness of your mattress, but you're gonna feel it. It's pretty obvious. Like all of the water tubing, like I could run my hands across the entire thing, the entire ChiliPad, and I could tell you exactly where the water lines are. I can't do that with the 8 Sleep Pod, just to kind of put that in perspective for you. The other thing is that ChiliPad Cube doesn't offer any kind of sleep tracking or data. It's a much more basic climate control system. Now, SleepMe does have a more advanced version. It's called the ChiliPad Dock Pro, and I'm not saying it's an 8 Sleep Pod ripoff, but it's an 8 Sleep Pod ripoff. but it offers the tracking. Although you have to buy the tracking device separately, it is available. But it works a lot more similarly in that, you know, it gives you more of the data and, you know, the automated climate control through the night, you know, similarly to the 8 Sleep Pod. Finally, the unit is noisier than the 8 Sleep Pod. The ChiliPad, I consider it to be sort of between the 8 Sleep Pod and the BedJet. You know, it's louder than the 8 Sleep Pod, quieter than the BedJet, to kind of put that in perspective, because the BedJet is more of a fan, and you know, it can get kind of loud when it's on its highest settings. You know, the ChiliPad Cube is definitely noisier. I don't think it's annoying. It's more of like a white noise in the background, you know, so as long as you're not bothered by that, you'll probably be fine with it. So if you've stuck with me this long, you probably already have a sense of what I'm about to say now. I recommend the 8 Sleep Pod far above the ChiliPad Cube from SleepMe for a lot of reasons, namely the effectiveness, the comfort, the sleep tracking, the comfort, the quietness of use, the comfort, and mostly the comfort, because you can feel all of the little water tubes inside of the SleepMe ChiliPad. I did not love that. That might not bother some people. It definitely bothered me, and that took it out of the running pretty quickly. You know, yes, you need to use Wi-Fi with the 8 Sleep Pod. That's really the only major con outside of like the price point. And that is the one thing that the SleepMe ChiliPad does better. All you need is power. But it just doesn't provide everything that the 8 Sleep Pod does. So, you know, if you're looking for a full surface climate control that gives you dual zone control, all of the automated sleep adjustments throughout the night, and the sleep tracking that just kind of lets you know what is going on with every single night of sleep, the 8 Sleep Pod is where it's at.